The Great Hall of the Galactic Union was filled with silence. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds stood together. Their eyes watched the floating images above them, pictures of dead planets, pictures of species that no longer existed. This was the day of remembrance. Ambassador Thessa walked to the center of the hall. Her silver robes moved slowly behind her. She was old now, older than most of her kind. She had seen many things in her long life, but nothing hurt her heart more than what she was about to speak of. "Today we remember those who are gone," she said. Her voice was soft, but it reached every corner of the hall. "We remember the Velkai, whose songs once filled the stars. We remember the Droth, whose gardens covered 3 moons. And we remember the humans." The images above changed. A blue and green planet appeared. Earth. It was beautiful. Oceans covered most of its surface. White clouds floated above green lands. Cities of glass and steel stood tall on its surface. 300 years ago, this world burned, Thessa continued. The Hollow came without warning. They consumed everything. The humans fought. Oh, how they fought. But in the end, there was only silence. The image changed again. Now it showed fire, ships falling from the sky, cities turning to ash, people running, people screaming. Then nothing. Just empty space where a planet once lived. Fleet Marshal Corrin stood at the back of the hall. He was a military man. He had no time for ceremonies. But duty brought him here today. His communicator buzzed against his chest. He stepped outside quietly and answered it. "Marshal, we have a problem," said the voice on the other end. It was Captain Voss, his second in command. "The Hollow have broken through our defensive line at Sector 7. We lost contact with 12 outposts." Corrin's blood went cold. "How is that possible? We had 3 fleets guarding that sector." "Had, sir. We had 3 fleets. They're gone now." Corrin ended the call. He looked back at the hall where everyone was still remembering the dead. Soon, he thought, there would be many more dead to remember. The Union Council met that same night. The room was full of fear. High Arbiter Velos sat at the head of the long table. He was the leader of the council. His face showed no emotion, but his hands were shaking. "The Hollow are moving faster than we expected," Corrin reported. "At this rate, they will reach our core systems within 6 months. Maybe less." "What do you suggest?" Velos asked. "We make our stand at Ethan Prime. It is a sacred world to many species. If we lose it, we lose hope. We gather every ship we have and we fight there." The council members looked at each other. They all knew what this meant. This would be their last battle. Win or die. There was no other choice. Far away from the lights of the Union, in the cold darkness beyond all known maps, something moved. It was a fleet. But not just any fleet. These ships were different. They were dark, silent. They had no lights on their hulls. They moved like ghosts through the empty void. On the bridge of the largest ship, a man stood watching the stars. His name was Tae Sunwoo. He was 58 years old. His hair was gray now, and deep lines marked his face, but his eyes were still sharp, still burning with a fire that had never gone out. The ship was called New Soul. It was a carrier, the biggest in the fleet, and on its walls hung a flag that the galaxy had not seen in 300 years. A flag of blue and red with a white circle in the center. The flag of a dead nation from a dead world. "Admiral," said a voice behind him. It was Captain Yuna Kang. She was young, only 34, but she had already proven herself as the best pilot in the fleet. Her eyes were cold and focused. She had been born on this ship. She had never seen Earth, but she carried its memory in her heart like everyone else. "What is it, Captain?" Sunwoo asked. "We intercepted Union communications. The Hollow have broken through their lines. The whole galaxy is falling apart." Sunwoo nodded slowly. He had been waiting for this day. For 300 years, humanity had hidden in the darkness. They had run from the hollow. They had watched from far away as the galaxy lived and laughed, never knowing that humanity still existed. But they had not been idle. They had built ships. They had trained soldiers. They had created weapons that the galaxy had never seen. All for this moment. Dr. Hannah Park entered the bridge. She was the chief scientist of the fleet. Her mind had created the stealth technology that kept them hidden. Her weapons had given them the power to fight back. She was 42 years old and she remembered everything. She remembered the stories her grandmother told her about Earth, about the taste of rain, about the smell of flowers, things she would never know. "The fleet is ready, Admiral," Hannah said. "All 200 ships are fully armed and operational. The soldiers are trained. The pilots are eager. We have been preparing for this for 3 centuries. We are ready." Sun Wu turned away from the window. He looked at the faces around him. He saw Yuna, whose hands had never touched Earth's soil, but were ready to die for its memory. He saw Hannah, whose brilliant mind had kept them alive all these years. He saw the crew members, born on cold ships, raised on recycled air and artificial light, but carrying the fire of humanity in their veins. 300 years, Sun Wu said quietly. 300 years we have hidden. We watched the galaxy forget us. We saw them hold ceremonies for our death. We let them think we were gone. He walked to the center of the bridge. Every eye was on him. But we are not gone. We survived. We grew strong, and now the same enemy that destroyed our home is destroying their homes. The Hollow think they won. The galaxy thinks we are dead. He smiled. It was a cold smile. A smile of a man who had waited a very long time. "I think it is time we remind them who we are." He turned to Yuna. "Captain Kang, set a course for Union space, maximum speed." Yuna's eyes lit up with a fire that matched his own. "Yes, Admiral." "And Captain," Sun Wu added, "tell the fleet to prepare for war. We are going home." The engines of 200 ships roared to life. For the first time in 300 years, humanity moved toward the light. The galaxy believed they were ghosts. Soon, they would learn that ghosts could fight, and ghosts could win. The fleet moved through the darkness like a river of shadows. 200 ships, silent and invisible, cutting through space that no map had ever recorded. These were the waters where humanity had hidden for 3 centuries, cold, empty, forgotten. On the new Sol, Dr. Hannah Park stood before a room full of officers. Behind her, screens showed images of weapons and ships. This was the briefing room. Today, she would explain to everyone what they were bringing to the war. "When we escaped Earth," Hannah began, "we had nothing. Broken ships, starving people, children who did not understand why they could never go home. We had every reason to die, but we did not die. We adapted." She pressed a button. The screen showed a dark warship with sharp angles. "Our ships are covered in absorption panels. They eat light, heat, and radiation. To any scanner in the galaxy, we do not exist. The Hollow hunt by sensing energy. They cannot sense what they cannot see." The officers nodded. They had all trained on these ships. They knew their power. "Our weapons," Hannah continued, "are kinetic, pure force. The Union uses energy weapons that the Hollow can absorb and heal from. Our weapons tear holes through them. They cannot regenerate from being ripped apart." Commander Jiho Bayek sat in the front row. He was the leader of the ground forces. His body was covered in scars from years of training. His eyes were hard like stone. He had never known peace. He had been born for war. "What about the soldiers?" Jiho asked. "What makes us different from Union troops?" Hannah looked at him. "You trained in zero gravity since birth. You fight in conditions that would kill Union soldiers in minutes. You do not fear the dark because you grew up in it. You do not fear the cold because you were raised in it. You are not soft. The Union species lived in comfort for thousands of years. We lived in survival mode for 300. Jiho smiled. It was not a friendly smile. Good. In another part of the ship, Admiral Sunwoo walked through the living quarters. He wanted to see his people, not as an admiral, but as a man. He passed by families eating together in small rooms, children playing with simple toys, old men and women sitting quietly, their eyes distant with memories. He stopped at a window. Outside was nothing but black space. But to him, it was home. This emptiness had raised 3 generations of humans. His grandfather had been a young boy when the fleet escaped Earth. His father had been born on this very ship, and Sunwoo himself had never known anything else. An old woman approached him. Her name was Sunyi. She was 90 years old, one of the oldest humans alive. She had been a child during the escape. "I remember the sky," Sunyi said softly. "Blue. So blue it hurt to look at. And the sun, warm on my face." Sunwoo looked at her. "Do you think we made the right choice? Hiding all these years?" Sunyi was quiet for a moment. "We needed time. Time to grow strong. Time to become something more than refugees. My generation ran. Your generation prepared. Now this new generation will fight." She put her thin hand on his arm. "You are doing the right thing, Tae. It is time." Far across the galaxy, the Velra Nebula burned with war. Fleet Marshal Corrin stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Union's pride. Around him, alarms screamed. Fire filled the space outside his window. The Hollow had come in numbers beyond counting. Thousands of bioships, living vessels made of dark flesh and bone, swarmed through the nebula. They attacked without pattern, without mercy. They simply consumed. "We have lost the left flank," an officer shouted. 30 ships gone." "The right flank is collapsing," another cried. "They are everywhere." Corrin gripped the railing hard. Half his fleet was already dead. The other half would follow soon. This was not a battle. This was a slaughter. Ambassador Thessa stood beside him. She had been traveling with the fleet when the attack began. Now she watched the destruction with horror in her eyes. "Can we retreat?" she asked. "No," Corrin said. "They are all around us. We are trapped." A hollow bioship rammed into a Union cruiser nearby. The cruiser exploded in a ball of flame. Corrin watched his people die and felt helpless. Then his communications officer spoke. Her voice was strange, confused. "Marshal, we are receiving a transmission." "From who? Command?" "No, sir. The signal. It is coming from outside the nebula, from deep space. There is nothing there on our maps." Corrin frowned. "Put it through." Static filled the speakers. Then, through the noise, a voice, a human voice, clear and calm. "Hold your position. Help is coming." The bridge went silent. Everyone stared at the speakers as if they had seen a ghost. "That is impossible," Corrin whispered. "There is nothing out there. No colonies, no stations, nothing." Thessa's face had gone pale. She recognized something in the voice. The accent, the rhythm. She had studied human culture before their extinction. She had listened to their recordings. Their music, their speeches. "That language," she said slowly. "That accent. Marshal, that is human." Corrin shook his head. "The humans are dead. They have been dead for 300 years. Then who is speaking to us?" Corrin had no answer. Outside, the Hollow continued their attack. Inside, a dead species had just sent them a message. On the New Sol, Captain Yuna Kang sat in her fighter cockpit. Around her, the other pilots of Phantom Squadron were doing final checks. They were the best, the fastest, the most dangerous. Yuna closed her eyes. She thought about her mother, who had died when Yuna was young. Her mother used to tell her stories about Earth, about oceans so big you could not see the other side, about mountains that touched the clouds, about cities full of millions of people. Yuna had never seen any of it. She had only seen the inside of ships, metal walls, recycled air, the endless black of space, but she carried Earth inside her, in her heart, in her blood, in her hatred for the Hollow. Her radio crackled. Admiral Sunwoo's voice filled her ear. "Phantom Squadron, this is Admiral Sunwoo. In a few hours, we will enter Union space. We will reveal ourselves to a galaxy that thinks we are dead, and we will show them what humanity has become." Yuna opened her eyes. Her hands gripped the controls. "We have waited 300 years for this moment," Sunwoo continued. "Our grandparents died waiting. Our parents died waiting. But we will not die waiting. We will fight. We will win. And we will make sure the galaxy never forgets us again." The channel went silent. Then, across 200 ships, a sound rose. It was quiet at first. Then it grew louder, thousands of voices speaking together, the same words, the same fire. "We remember what they forgot." Yuna said the words too, and she meant every one of them. The fleet accelerated, the darkness gave way to light, and humanity, silent for so long, prepared to scream. The Velra Nebula had become a graveyard. Broken ships floated through clouds of purple and gold gas. Bodies drifted in the silence of space. The Union fleet, once proud and mighty, was now a collection of burning wreckage. Fleet Marshal Corrin stood on his damaged bridge. The lights flickered above him. Smoke filled the air. Half his crew was dead. The other half was waiting to die. "How many ships do we have left?" he asked. 47, Marshal," his officer replied. "Most are heavily damaged. We cannot fight much longer." Corrin looked out the window. The Hollow swarm was regrouping for the final attack. Thousands of bioships circled like hungry animals waiting for the kill. Their dark flesh pulsed with sick light. Their mouths, if you could call them that, opened and closed in the vacuum. Ambassador Thessa stood beside him. Her silver robes were torn and dirty. But her eyes were still watching, still hoping. She kept thinking about the transmission, the human voice. It could not be real, and yet she had heard it clearly. "They are coming," Corrin said quietly. "This is the end." The Hollow swarm began to move, a wave of death sweeping toward the last Union ships. Corrin closed his eyes. He had failed. The Union would fall, and soon the galaxy would follow. Then space broke open. It happened without warning. One moment, there was only empty darkness behind the Hollow fleet. The next moment, light tore through the void like a wound. Not the blue light of Union engines. This was different. White, pure, blinding. "What is that?" someone shouted. From the light came ships, dark ships, angular and sharp, like knives cutting through silk. They came in formations so tight they seemed like one creature, 100, 200. More and more pouring out of the wound in space like blood from a cut. Corrin stared. His mouth hung open. He had never seen ships like these. They had no lights, no markings. They moved in perfect silence. "Marshal," his officer whispered. "Those ships, they are not in our database. We have no record of that design." On the new Sol, Admiral Sunwoo stood at his command center. Around him, his officers worked with calm focus. This was the moment they had trained for, the moment they had dreamed of for 300 years. "Open a channel," Sunwoo ordered. "All frequencies. I want everyone to hear this." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, Admiral." Sunwoo took a breath. Then he spoke. "This is Admiral Tae Sunwoo of the Human Remnant Fleet. We have not forgotten who we are, and we have not forgotten what they did to our home." His voice echoed across the nebula. Union crews heard it and froze. The words did not make sense. Humans were dead. Everyone knew that. Everyone had accepted that. But the ships were real, and they were attacking. Captain Yuna Kang led Phantom Squadron into the battle. Her fighters screamed through space at speeds the Hollow could not match. Behind her, 20 pilots followed in perfect formation. "Phantom Squadron," she said into her radio, "weapons free. Show them what we can do." The human fighters hit the Hollow swarm like a hammer hitting glass. Yuna's kinetic cannons tore through the first bioship before it could react. The rounds punched through flesh and bone, ripping the creature apart from inside. The Hollow did not understand. They had never faced weapons like this. Energy beams they could absorb, heat they could redirect. But pure force, pure destruction? They had no defense. Yuna spun her fighter and fired again. Another bioship exploded, then another. Her hands moved without thought. Her eyes saw patterns the enemy could not see. She had been born for this, raised for this. Every day of her life had led to this moment. "This is for Earth," she whispered as she killed. The Union crews watched in shock. The human ships moved through the Hollow swarm like ghosts. They appeared, fired, and vanished before the enemy could respond. The Hollow, for the first time in anyone's memory, were confused. On the Union's pride, Ambassador Thessa was crying. Tears ran down her face as she watched the battle. "They survived," she said. "All this time, they survived." Corin could not speak. He was watching a dead species save his life. The larger human warships joined the battle. They fired massive kinetic rounds that punched through hollow bioships like paper. Each shot was a kill. Each kill was a message. "We are here. We are alive. We are angry." Admiral Sunwoo watched the battle unfold on his screens. The Hollow were dying by the hundreds, but he felt no joy, only cold satisfaction. This was justice. This was revenge. This was 300 years of pain finally finding its target. "Marshal Corin," Sunwoo said through the open channel, "I suggest you support our attack. Together we can finish them." Corin finally found his voice. Who are you? How is this possible?" "We are the humans you forgot, the humans you mourned, the humans you thought were gone. We have been watching, waiting, and now we are here." Corin turned to his crew. "All ships, support the human fleet. Fire everything we have." The Union ships, damaged and burning, turned their weapons on the Hollow. For the first time in the battle, they were not alone. For the first time, they had hope. The Hollow swarm broke. They tried to retreat, but the human ships were faster. Yuna and her squadron chased them down, killing every ship that tried to run. There would be no survivors. There would be no mercy. In 30 minutes, the battle was over. The nebula, once filled with Hollow ships, was now filled with their corpses. Thousands of bioships floated dead in space. The Union fleet had lost many, but they had lived. After the battle, Admiral Sunwoo appeared on the view screen of the Union's Pride. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes, but his voice was strong. High Arbiter Velos was connected from the Union capital. He stared at Sunwoo like he was looking at a ghost. "Admiral," Velos said slowly, "the galaxy has believed your species was extinct for 3 centuries. How are you here?" Sunwoo's face showed no emotion. "When the Hollow destroyed Earth, a small fleet escaped. We ran beyond the edge of known space. We found nothing, just darkness and cold. So we made our home there. We built ships, we raised children, we trained for war, and we waited. Waited for what? For this. For the day we could return. For the day we could fight back." Velos was silent for a moment. Then he asked, "Why did you come? You could have stayed hidden. You were safe." Sunwoo's eyes hardened. "We thought about that. We could have watched the galaxy burn. We could have let the Hollow destroy everyone who abandoned us, everyone who forgot us. But that is not who we are." He leaned forward. "We are human. We do not hide forever. We do not forget our debts, and we do not let evil win without a fight." Ambassador Thessa spoke up. "Admiral, on behalf of the Galactic Union, I do not know what to say. We thought you were gone. We mourned you." Sunwoo looked at her. For a moment, his hard face softened. "We knew you mourned us. We watched your ceremonies. We heard your speeches. But mourning does not bring back the dead. Only the dead can do that." He stood up straight. "We are not here for thanks. We are not here for apologies. We are here because the Hollow must be destroyed. They took our world. They will not take another. If the Union wants to stand with us, we welcome it. If not, we will fight alone. We have done it before." Corrin stepped forward. "We will stand with you, whatever you need, whatever it takes." Sunwoo nodded. "Then prepare your fleets, Marshal. This battle was just the beginning. The Hollow have a homeworld, a heart, and we are going to cut it out." The channel closed. Across the Union, word spread. The humans were alive. The humans had returned, and the humans were leading the war. On the New Sol, Captain Yuna Kang landed her fighter. It was damaged but still flying, just like her, just like all of them. She stepped out and looked at the stars. "We came home," she said quietly. "We finally came home." But she knew the real fight was still ahead. The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Every world, every station, every ship heard the same impossible message. Humanity had returned. On 1,000 planets, beings stared at their screens in disbelief. They watched recordings of the Battle of Velra Nebula. They saw dark ships emerging from nothing. They heard Admiral Sunwoo's voice declaring that humanity was alive. Some cried, some laughed, some refused to believe. High Arbiter Velos addressed the Galactic Union from the Council Chamber. His voice was heavy with emotion. "For 300 years, we believed we had lost the humans forever. We were wrong. They survived. They grew strong. And when we needed them most, they came to save us. From this day forward, the human remnant fleet will fight beside us. Together, we will end the Hollow threat. Together, we will win this war." The galaxy cheered. But Admiral Sunwoo knew that cheering would not win wars. Only blood and fire would do that. The joint fleet gathered at Ethan Prime. Human ships floated beside Union vessels for the first time. It was a strange sight. The Union ships were elegant, curved, decorated with lights and colors. The human ships were dark, angular, built only for killing. Beauty beside brutality. Dr. Hannah Park met with Union scientists on a research station. They looked at her with wonder. To them, she was a miracle. A member of a dead species standing before them, breathing, talking, alive. "Our technology is different from yours," Hannah explained. "You focused on energy. We focused on force. You built shields. We built weapons that ignore shields." She showed them designs for kinetic cannons, stealth plating, and armor that could survive direct hollow attacks. The Union scientists studied everything with hungry eyes. "How did you develop all of this?" one of them asked. "You had so few resources, so little space." Hannah's face darkened. "We had desperation. When you have nothing to lose, you find ways to survive. Every problem we faced, we solved or we died. There was no middle ground, no comfort, no safety, just survival." The scientist nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand. The humans had not just survived. They had been forged. Hardened by 300 years of struggle into something new, something dangerous. Commander Jiho Bayek stood in a training field on Ethan Prime. Around him, Union soldiers watched with nervous eyes. They had heard stories about human warriors. Now they would see them. "You fight in formations," Jiho said to the Union troops. "You follow rules. You wait for orders. That works against normal enemies. It does not work against the Hollow." He pointed to his own soldiers, the returned. They stood in a line behind him, silent, motionless, but their eyes were watching everything. The Hollow do not follow rules. They swarm. They adapt. They attack from all directions. If you wait for orders, you die. You must think, react, fight as individuals while supporting each other. A Union soldier raised his hand. How do we learn this? Jiho smiled. It was not a kind smile. You train until you cannot move. Then you train more. Pain is your teacher. Fear is your enemy. By the time we reach Hollow Prime, you will be different, or you will be dead. The training began. It was brutal. Union soldiers who had never known true hardship faced exercises that pushed them to breaking. Many failed, many quit. But some survived. Some changed. Some became something closer to human. Ambassador Thessa requested permission to visit the human fleet. Admiral Sunwoo granted it. She wanted to understand. She wanted to know who these people really were. She walked through the corridors of the new Seoul. Everything was simple. No decorations, no colors, just metal and function. The humans she passed nodded to her politely, but did not stop to talk. They had work to do. Thessa found an observation room where human civilians gathered. Families, children, old people. They sat together, talking quietly, sharing food. She approached an old woman sitting alone by a window. It was Sun-Yi. "May I sit with you?" Thessa asked. Sun-Yi looked at her with ancient eyes. "Of course." Thessa sat down. For a moment, they both looked out at the stars in silence. "I have studied your species my whole life," Thessa said finally. "I read your history, your art, your music. I thought I knew humans, but I did not know this. I did not know you could survive something like this." Sun-Yi was quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. "I was 7 years old when Earth burned. I remember standing at a window, watching the planet grow smaller behind us. My mother was crying. My father was trying to be strong. Everyone was scared. We did not know if we would live another day." She turned to look at Thessa. "For years we lived on the edge of death. Not enough food, not enough air. Ships breaking down, people dying, children asking why we could not go home. And every day we told them the same thing. We told them we would survive. We told them we would return one day. We told them to remember." Tears formed in Thessa's eyes. "That is beautiful. And terrible." "That is human," Sun-Yi said simply. The preparations continued for weeks. Human and Union forces trained together, planned together, argued together. There were problems. Union commanders thought humans were too aggressive. Human commanders thought the Union was too careful. But slowly, they learned to work as one. Then the Hollow attacked again. A swarm appeared at the edge of the system, thousands of bioships hungry for revenge. They had come to destroy the Alliance before it could strike. Captain Yuna Kang led the defense. She took Phantom Squadron into the heart of the enemy fleet. They moved like shadows, striking and vanishing before the Hollow could react. But this time, the Hollow had learned. They anticipated human tactics. They swarmed in patterns designed to trap the fast-moving fighters. For the first time, human ships started dying. Yuna watched as her pilots fell one by one. Friends she had known her whole life, burning in the cold void. Half her squadron was gone in the first hour. "Fall back," she ordered. "Regroup at Marker 7. The survivors retreated. The Hollow chased them. But Union ships moved to cover the withdrawal. They took the hits meant for the humans. They sacrificed themselves to save their new allies. When the battle finally ended, the Hollow had been pushed back, but the cost was high. Yuna landed her damaged fighter and walked out on shaking legs. Her flight suit was burned. Her hands were trembling. Admiral Sunwoo met her on the deck. "How many?" he asked. 11 pilots, Yuna said. Her voice was flat, empty. "Good people, the best I had." Sunwoo put his hand on her shoulder. They will be remembered. Yuna looked at him. Her eyes were red but dry. Remembering is not enough. I want to end this. I want to destroy them. All of them. Sunwoo nodded. We will. Intelligence has found their homeworld, Hollow Prime, the center of their hive mind. If we destroy it, we destroy them all. When do we attack? Soon. The fleet is almost ready. One more push, and this war ends. Yuna straightened up. The pain in her eyes hardened into something cold and sharp. Good. I am tired of watching people die. It is time they watched their world die instead. Fleet Marshal Corrin met with Admiral Sunwoo that night. They stood together on a balcony overlooking the combined fleet, human and Union ships side by side, preparing for the final battle. I must tell you something, Corrin said. 300 years ago, when your world was dying, the Union received your distress calls. We could have sent help. We could have tried to save some of your people. Sunwoo said nothing. He just waited. We chose not to, Corrin continued. We were afraid. The Hollow were too strong. We thought that if we helped you, they would come for us next. So we did nothing. We let you die. Silence hung between them. Corrin expected anger. He expected hatred. Instead, Sunwoo just looked at the stars. I know, Sunwoo said finally. We knew even then. We heard your debates, your excuses, your fear. And yet you came to save us. Sunwoo turned to face him. Fear, I understand. We were afraid too. We are still afraid. But fear does not excuse everything. You made a choice. You have to live with it. He started to walk away, then stopped. But you are trying to make it right. You are standing with us now. That matters. Maybe not enough to erase the past, but enough to build a future. Corrin watched him go. He did not feel forgiven, but he felt something else. Respect. And maybe, just maybe, hope. The fleet made final preparations. In 2 days, they would jump to Hollow Prime. In 2 days, the war would end, one way or another. The fleet jumped at dawn. 500 ships, human and Union together, tearing holes through space toward the heart of darkness. Hollow Prime waited for them. A world of flesh and death, pulsing with the mind that controlled billions of hollow creatures across the galaxy. Admiral Sunwoo stood on the bridge of the New Soul. Around him, his officers worked in focused silence. There was no fear on their faces, only determination. They had waited 300 years for this. They would not fail. The ships emerged from the jump, and for a moment everyone stopped breathing. Hollow Prime hung in space like a wound. The planet was covered in dark organic matter. Mountains of flesh rose from its surface. Rivers of black blood flowed across dead continents. And surrounding it, filling the space around it, were billions of hollow bioships. A wall of death that blocked out the stars. Gods above, someone whispered. Sunwoo looked at the enemy fleet. It was more than they had expected, far more. But he had not come this far to turn back. Open a channel to all ships, he ordered. The communications officer nodded. Channel open, Admiral. Sunwoo stood straight. When he spoke, his voice carried to every ship in the fleet. Today, we finish what began 300 years ago. Not for revenge, not for hatred, for every species that fell to this enemy, for every world that burned, for every child who will never have to fear the darkness again. He paused, then continued. Some of us will not survive this day. I will not lie to you. The enemy is many. We are few, but we have something they do not have. We have purpose. We have each other. And we have the fire that burns in every human heart. The fire that never dies. He looked out at the hollow fleet. Let that fire burn today. Let it consume our enemies. Let it light the galaxy forever. The channel closed, and the battle began. The human ships hit first. They moved through the hollow swarm like knives through water. their stealth systems hiding them until the last moment. Kinetic rounds tore through bioships by the dozens. The Hollow screamed in their strange, silent way, dying without understanding how. Captain Yuna Kang led Phantom Squadron into the thickest part of the enemy fleet. Her new pilots were young and scared, but they followed her without question. She had become more than a captain to them. She had become a legend. "Stay tight," she ordered. "Watch each other's backs. Kill anything that moves." Her cannons fired. A Hollow ship exploded. Then another. She spun her fighter through debris and flame, moving by instinct, dancing with death. The Union fleet engaged the main enemy force. Fleet Marshal Corrin commanded from his flagship, directing ships with cool precision. He had learned from the humans. He had changed. His orders were sharper now, more aggressive, more human. "Push forward," he commanded. "Do not give them time to regroup. We end this now." The battle raged for hours. Ships died on both sides, the void filled with fire and wreckage. But slowly, step by step, the combined fleet pushed toward the planet. Commander Jiho Bayek stood in the launch bay of a human assault ship. Around him, the returned waited in their armor. These were the ground soldiers. The ones who would land on Hollow Prime and destroy the hive mind itself. "You know the mission," Jiho said. "We land. We fight through whatever is down there. We reach the core. We plant the bomb. Then we die or we run. Simple." One of his soldiers raised her hand. Her name was Yunbi. She was 20 years old and had never seen combat before today. "Commander," she said, "what if we do not make it?" Jiho looked at her. "Then someone else will. That is how we survive. That is how we have always survived. One falls, another rises. The mission continues." Yunbi nodded. Her face was pale, but her eyes were steady. The assault ships launched. They screamed toward the planet's surface, dodging Hollow defenses, taking hits, some exploding in flames. Jiho's ship made it through. They crashed into a valley of flesh and crawled out into a nightmare. The surface of Hollow Prime was worse than anyone imagined. The ground moved beneath their feet. The air was thick with spores. Hollow creatures emerged from holes in the flesh, attacking without pause. Jiho raised his weapon and fired. "Move! Keep moving!" The returned fought their way forward. For every one that fell, 2 more took their place. They had trained for this. They had been born for this. The Hollow had never faced enemies like this. Enemies who did not run. Enemies who did not stop. In orbit, the battle had reached its peak. Dr. Hannah Park sat in a sealed chamber on the New Sol. In front of her was the resonance bomb, her life's work, a weapon designed to shatter the psychic network that connected all Hollow creatures. "Admiral," she said into her communicator, "the weapon is ready, but I need a clear signal to the planet core. The ground team has to be in position." Sunwoo's voice came back. "They are almost there. Hold." Hannah closed her eyes. She thought about Earth, about the grandmother who had told her stories of green forests and blue oceans, about the parents who died so she could live, about 300 years of preparation leading to this single moment. "I am ready," she whispered. On the surface, Jiho and his team reached the entrance to the core. It was a massive hole in the planet's flesh, descending into darkness. Inside, they could feel the hive mind, a presence so vast and old it made their heads hurt. "We go in," Jiho said. "We plant the bomb. We get out. Anyone who cannot fight anymore stays here to guard our exit." "No shame in that." Half his team stayed behind. They were too wounded to continue. Jiho led the rest into the darkness. The descent was long. The walls pulsed around them. Hollow creatures attacked from every angle. One by one, soldiers fell. Yunbi took a wound to her leg but kept moving. Jiho carried 2 wounded men on his shoulders while still firing his weapon. Finally, they reached the center. The hive brain. It was enormous. a mass of living tissue that stretched across a cavern the size of a city. Tendrils connected it to the walls, the floor, the ceiling. It was the heart of the Hollow, the source of their power, the thing that had ordered the destruction of Earth. Jiho set down the bomb. His hands were steady. His face was calm. "This is for Earth," he said. "This is for everyone you killed." He activated the bomb. 10 minutes until detonation. "Everyone out!" he shouted. "Move!" The team ran. But the Hollow knew now. They knew what was happening. Creatures poured into the cavern from every direction. The way out was blocked. Jiho looked at his team. Only 5 remained. Yunbi was among them. "Go," he said. "Find another way. I will hold them here." Yunbi shook her head. "Commander, no, we can fight together." Jiho smiled. For the first time, it was a real smile. Warm, human. "I have lived a good life. I was born for this moment. Let me have it. Now go. Tell them we did our job." Yunbi's eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. She led the remaining soldiers away into a side tunnel, hoping to find another exit. Jiho turned to face the Hollow alone. They came for him in waves. He killed them by the dozens. His weapon ran dry. He used his knife. His knife broke. He used his fists. He fought until his body could not move anymore. "Tell them we came home," he whispered as the darkness took him. The bomb detonated. The hive brain died in a flash of white fire. Across the galaxy, every hollow creature stopped moving. Their connection to the hive mind was gone. They were nothing now, just empty shells drifting in space. In orbit, the Hollow fleet went silent. Bioships that had been fighting moments ago now floated dead, lifeless, harmless. The battle was over. On the surface, Yunbi and 3 others crawled out of a crevice. They looked up at the sky and saw Union ships descending to rescue them. Captain Yuna Kang's fighter was damaged. She had taken too many hits. Her engines were failing, but she was alive. She watched the Hollow fleet die around her and felt tears running down her face. "We did it," she said. "Jiho, we did it." Admiral Sunwoo stood on his bridge in silence. Around him, his officers were cheering, crying, embracing each other. But Sunwoo just looked at the dead planet below. "How many did we lose?" he asked quietly. 63 human ships, over 100 Union vessels. And Commander Bayek's ground team, only 4 survived. Sunwoo closed his eyes. Victory always cost. It always hurt. But this was what they had fought for. This was what Jiho had died for. High Arbiter Velos appeared on the view screen. His face was exhausted but filled with wonder. "Admiral Sunwoo, it is over. The Hollow are gone. You have saved the galaxy." Sunwoo opened his eyes. "We saved each other, Arbiter. That is what matters." "What will humanity do now?" Velos asked. Sunwoo looked at the stars. For the first time in 300 years, those stars felt like home. "We will do what we always do. Rebuild, remember, and make sure nothing like this ever happens again." Months later, a memorial was built on the ruins of Earth. Human and Union workers stood side by side, placing stones and planting trees. It was a small garden in a dead world, but it was a beginning. Ambassador Thessa wrote a new history, not of humanity's fall, but of their return. She ended it with words that would be taught to children across the galaxy for generations. They believed humanity was gone. They mourned them. They forgot them. They were wrong. Humanity was not gone. They were waiting, waiting in the darkness, growing strong. And when the galaxy needed them most, they returned. They saved us. They reminded us what courage looks like, what hope looks like, what it means to never give up. On the memorial, a single phrase was carved in stone. Words spoken by a commander who gave his life so others could live. We came home. And humanity finally was home to stay.